Hello there, everyone. Mohammed Najmi here, and today I have for you an episode about a bit about Pakistan, sort of like Pakistan under review or a microscope, a microscopic view of Pakistan, what is actually happening. So I think so. It's important to note at this point that what this is not is this is not about the beauties of Pakistan and so on, and the what the different provinces are, their cultures are, and how beautiful it is, the landscapes and whatnot, the nature or the favorite or whatever the national flowers or the national animal and so on and so on. I can tell you the national flower is jasmine, and the I think the national animal is the peacock and stuff like that. This is not a deep dive into those sort of things. This is a review of the problems within Pakistan and the problems which are transpiring in Britain that are being imported from a region like Pakistan. If you want to know about the cultural experiences and the different landscapes and the nature and the resources of Pakistan and whatnot, it is a beautiful country in that sense. I'm sure there's many other episodes about that. This is not a tourism episode. This is specifically an episode exploring the problems within Pakistan. Let's look at Pakistan in general. Pakistan's area, if you look at the regional area of Pakistan compared to United Kingdom is 243,000 square kilometers, and compared to that, Pakistan is 882,000 square kilometers. So it's pretty huge regionally compared to UK. Now, Pakistan is not just one region. Pakistan has various ethnicities and various regional cultures. So the ethnicities within Pakistan are Punjabis, which are 45% of Pakistan, and they are from the Punjab province. And then you have Saraiki, which also live in the Punjab province. They are 8% of Pakistan. Then you also have Pashtuns, which lived in the Pakhtunkhwa province, which is the northern province, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They are 15% of the population. You have Sindhis, which live in the Sindh province, and they are 14% of the population. You have Balochis, which live in the Balochistan province, which is a pretty huge province, but they are only 4% of the population. It's very sparsely populated, that province. You have Mohajirs, the Urdu-speaking people who migrated from India to Pakistan at the time of partition in 1947. You have them at 8% of the population, and the 6% of the population is actually a mixture of multiple ethnicities. So they are considered other ethnicities in this. Various other ethnicities we have over there. So obviously with different ethnicities you have different languages as well. Punjabi, obviously spoken by Punjabis. Pashto, spoken by Pashtuns. Sindhi, spoken by Sindhis in Sindh. Saraiki, obviously, as we said, spoken by Saraiki. It's pretty obvious at this point. Balochis speak Balochi. But there's also a language of Hindko and Brahvi that is spoken within Pakistan. Also, Urdu is spoken mainly by the Mohajirs as their native language, but by the rest of the Pakistan as well, as it's the national language of Pakistan. Now, the population of Pakistan is 247 million. 247 million people, and estimated 9 to 10 million people live abroad. The growth rate of Pakistan is 1.9%. Now, the birth rate of Pakistan is 26 births for every 1,000 people, and the death rate is 6 deaths per 1,000 people. So obviously, you can see they're growing a lot more exponentially within the country as well. Life expectancy is 70 years. Children under the age of 5 23% of them are recorded as underweight. The literacy rate of Pakistan is 58%, males is 69%, and females is 46%, which is both pretty low. However, literacy rates in metropolitan cities are 75%. So as we discussed, there are different regions, there are different ethnicities. Obviously, maybe I didn't mention there are provinces. So there are 4 provinces: Sindh, Punjab, Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And then there are 2 Pakistan administered areas, which is the Kashmir, the Azad Kashmir area, and the Gilgit-Baltistan area, which is in the north of Pakistan as well. They have their own tribal laws and so on and so on. And then there's one capital territory of Pakistan, which is Islamabad. Now, the latest constitution was endorsed in 1973. We will go further into how different constitutions were there and what has happened to the law in Pakistan and how Sharia law has taken over for a while now. Child marriage is actually against Pakistan's national law. National age is 16 for marriage. But in Sindh, where child marriages are at the highest rate, legal age of marriage has been raised to 18. Obviously, these are usually ignored because of the Sharia law, which does not recognizes these higher legal ages according to them. And each province have different laws from federal government. So that's like a snapshot of what Pakistan is, and highlights some of the problems in Pakistan when it comes to the literacy rates, the birth rate and the death rate issue, the exponential rise of the population, even though it's not that much of a prosperous country, and the problems of what the child marriages are like in Pakistan as well. So after that snapshot, let's come up to a different snapshot of Pakistan, which is in the form of education. Now, this is very important because it shows you what the problems really are. And make sure that this is not a put down of a country as such, but this is still like a way of understanding them and understanding where most of the problems could be coming from. So it's important to understand these things. Now, according to UN data, the youth of Pakistan, which is between the 15 to 24 years of age, 64% of them live in urban areas and 36% of them live in rural areas. They have a literacy rate of 70%. Which kind of shows you that, compared to the 59 overall literacy rate, that the future of Pakistan hopefully is getting more literate than their predecessors. One can only hope. Now, 39% of the youth from 15 to the age of 24 are employed. Only 39% of them are employed. 37% of them are male, and only 2% of them are female, actually. So 61% are unemployed, with 57% not seeking a job. Now, that would also be the case because they are in university, or they're working for family business, or they're working as labor within their agricultural farms with their families and so on. So the literacy rate, as we were mentioned before as well, is 59%. Metropolitan cities of Karachi, Lahore and Islamabad have it at 75%, but there are some rural areas within Pakistan where the literacy rate 9%. And we have to also say it like the literacy rate does not, it just means the ability of someone to read or write their name. That is the most basic of requirement for literacy rate. The gross enrollment rate in secondary education is 43%. So only 43% of the people are getting enrolled, kids are getting enrolled into secondary education. Now you compare that to Bangladesh or India. Well, Bangladesh like 73% or so on, and India as well around that percentage. Sri Lanka is at 98%. So because of lack of quality in public schools and heavy Islamization of the 70s in General Zia's time, the madrasas have increased from 200 at the time of independence of Pakistan in 1947 to around 30,000 currently. this is a huge problem as well, because these are the religious school. The madrasas are the religious schools, and they are not like our Catholic schools or something like that over here, where some religious education or more religious education would be taught. This is madrasas are the education is taught only from the lens of Islam. So like you would not be taught things like evolution and so on, which Islam does not consider to be true in that sense. So they're giving most of the education is Islamic education being given over here, and this is where radicalization has also been happening. So they have increased from only 200 madrasas in 1947 to 30,000 madrasas currently. Also consider lack of schools, like public or private, in rural areas. So they have no other options than madrasas, and there's heavy funding of madrasas coming from Saudi Arabia and Iran, according to the religious sect that they want to open madrasas for, Shia or Sunni. Now, public schools also teach in Urdu or regional languages, so kids would not learn English as such. And most rural public schools teach in rural languages, like I said. And then there's a lack of public higher education. This transitions to private universities is hard to make for a lot of kids. So if there are kids who are in rural areas, and they're only going to their local public schools, they will be learning in Urdu and stuff. So to get the higher education, they would want to, or better higher education, they would want to go to private schools or private universities. But the transition is very hard, because in private universities everything would be taught in English. So when we look at the enrollment rate, so now these are the enrollment rate in elementary school, middle school and high school, and this is very telling. I'll put up the graphic up right now. I think so, I have them somewhere. Okay, so elementary school, Pakhtunkhwa 71%, Punjab 70%, so far so good. Sindh 61%, Balochistan 56%. So I would say, like in England, it might be in the 90s, obviously, because everyone is going to the elementary school. So compare that as well. Now we come to the middle school, right, secondary and so on. Pakhtunkhwa from 71% elementary is now gone down to 41% middle school. Punjab from 70% is gone down to 38%. Sindh 61% gone down to 34%. Balochistan from 56, already a lower percentage, gone down to 26%. Then when you go to the high school, Pakhtunkhwa gone down to 27%, Punjab gone down to 25%. Punjab is 29%, Sindh is 25%, and Balochistan is 15%. So the progression of education is not really taking place as such, and education is key. Basic education is key for a prosperous country and for a prosperous society. Now let's look a bit more. Let me look a bit more at the education side of it. We have covered the youth of Pakistan, then the employment problems. Now here's another statistic within the youth of employment. Now this is important. Only 15% have internet access. The kids, 85% do not. Now the kids, the youth is from the age of, like I said, 15 to 24, around that age. You don't have internet access these days, and you don't have the ability to buy books or whatnot, or know whatnot. So your access to education, access to knowledge is being limited. 52% have cell phones though, and 48% do not. Covered the elementary. I've given you the statistics for that as well. Now, Pakistani universities faculty profile. Now, this is obviously an issue, because if you're not going to have good teachers in universities, or enough teachers in universities, how are you going to even have, students going over there? So anyways, that was a snapshot of the, the education snapshot of Pakistan. So that is a huge problem. That is how the governments and nefarious governments can keep a hold of people within the country. Now, so when it comes to cousin marriages, this is a huge problem within Pakistan as well. Around 60-65% is reported that people are marrying cousins, because it creates a lot of issues as well. So there was a study done, I think so, of surveys between 1990 to 2018, and this study was done by BMC Women's Health, as far as I know. And the results was the findings revealed a high but overall stable trend of cousin marriages prevalence of about 63% during the last 3 decades. Consanguineous marriages were more prevalent among young and uneducated women living in rural areas with poorer wealth status and having less exposure to mass media to access information. A strong association of consanguinity was observed with women's reproductive health and fertility behavior, particularly for women who gave first birth at a younger age, had multiple gravida pregnancies, multiple parity, pregnancy termination, ANC visits, and higher fertility. The consanguineous marriages are predominant in the society of Pakistan. Findings reveal that these contribute significantly to women's reproductive health and fertility behaviors. Appropriate counseling, education, and health promotional programs related to consanguinity should be designed and launched at the community level. That is what the report concluded, to raise awareness about risk towards women's reproductive health and fertility. But obviously such things are met with a lot of resistance, because according to Sharia it's allowed to happen. According to a rough estimate, nearly 1 billion, 20% of the global population live in communities with a preference for such cousin marriages, predominantly in Muslim countries of the Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. With 65%, Pakistan has one of the highest rates of cousin marriages globally, followed by India 55%, Saudi Arabia 50%, Afghanistan 40%, Iran 30%, Egypt and Turkey 20%. Now this is a huge problem over here as well, because it transports, because these people who are from those rural areas have been living over here or are coming over here, which do not have that level of education as well. I don't understand why they're coming over here in the first place, but obviously they are, people are still attached to that tradition, even though they might be educated, but they're not advanced in that way. And cousin marriages have been cited as a significant factor in Bradford child deaths as well. So it's a problem over here, child defects and child deaths. Marrying close family members is a tradition in these countries. Cousin marriages, like, they have a higher number of one particular group of inherited conditions. These are called recessive disorders, which cause a range of serious diseases and disabilities. And this is the reason why it's not good to do it, and also puts pressure on health services. So 65% of Pakistan also affects your mental ability, your cognitive ability. It pulls your IQ level down. So just imagine 65% of Pakistan, if it's doing that, what kind of genes there are of people, higher chance of people with lower IQs, which means the progress is halted in that way. So some of the other problems in Pakistan is also the high usage of pornography. So despite cultural and legal restrictions, the number of Pakistani engaging in cyber sexual activities still high. For example, 67.5% of 16 to 24-year-old men from urban areas of Pakistan reported regular viewing pornographic content. Most of the pornographic content is Western pornographic content as well. It's important to note that, because this is what is disrupting the cultural stuff as well. This is what shapes their view of women, of Western women, and the ideas that they come with over here as well, because they transpose those ideas, what they see on their screens in pornography, relate that to the overall people in the West, as if that was a value statement rather than a pornographic movie. When it comes to the poverty rate in Pakistan has been recorded by the World Bank at 39.3%, using the lower middle income poverty rate of $3.2 per day for the fiscal year of 2020 to 2021. In September 2021, the government stated that 22% of its population lives below the national poverty line, set at rupees 3,030, which is $10 per month. And as you can see from the graphs over here, it's not really looking that good, and even now it's going even worse since the inflation is going higher and higher. When it comes to health, the overall view as well, you can see, the health is not that good of the people. In 2024, the estimated share of the adult population who smokes daily is 19%, or that's fine, as the estimated amount of alcohol consumption was pretty low because alcohol is not available that much. The estimated share of population affected by diabetes in Pakistan is expected to be 35 to 36%. The findings of a report of the Global Health Fund of 2019, I think so, it was conducted by the Lancet Global Health Research, that life expectancy for both sexes in Pakistan increased nationally from 61.1, which was in years 1990 to 65.9. So 61 to 65.9 increased from 1990 to 2019. However, these gains were not uniform across the provinces and federal territories. Pakistan saw a narrowing of the difference in health life expectancy between the sexes from 1990 to 2019, as health gains for women occurred at faster rates than for men. For women, life expectancy increased by 8.2% between 1990 and 2019, whereas the male life expectancy increased by 7.6%. Neonatal disorders following by heart disease, stroke, diarrheal diseases, and lower respiratory infections were the leading causes of all-age premature mortality in 2019. Child and maternal malnutrition, air pollution, high systolic blood pressure, dietary risk, and tobacco consumption were the leading all-age risk factors for death and disability-adjusted life years at the national level in 2019. 5 non-communicable diseases, heart diseases, stroke, congenital defects, chronic kidney disease were among the 10 leading causes of years of life lost in Pakistan. Burden varied by socio-demographic index. Notably, Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa had the lowest observed gains in life expectancy. Dietary iron deficiency was the leading cause of years lived with disability for both men and women in 1990 to 2019. And birth weight and short gestation and particulate matter pollution were the leading contributors to overall disease burden in both 1990 and 2019, despite moderate improvements. Let's look a bit on the rape and sexual offences that happen in Pakistan. So the punishment for rape in Pakistan under the Pakistani law is either death penalty or imprisonment of between 10 and 25 years. For cases related to gang rape, the punishment is either death penalty or life imprisonment. 72% of women in custody in Pakistan are physically or sexually abused. So I just related to you the law that is there, and the law would seem appropriate for such cases, but then I also told you 72% of the women in custody under police custody in Pakistan are physically or sexually abused. So the law does not really matter much if the people who are supposed to implement it or uphold it are not really up to the task. 4,326 cases of rape were reported in the year of 2018. And 2019, this went up actually 4,377. 2020, 3,887. It got lower. 2021, 1,866. Still high numbers. I don't know the reason of going down. I think so it was lower reporting during the COVID times as well. In 2019, the government of Pakistan established more than 1,000 special courts across the country. These special courts would focus only on addressing the issues related to violence against women in Pakistan. Prior to 1979, Section 375 of the Pakistan Penal Code stated that girls younger than the age of 14 were prohibited from sex acts even if consent was acquired. So consent acquired by the parents, obviously. So even then it was not allowed. But obviously, as when we go through the constitution of Pakistan, we'll see how the Pakistan penal code has been subverted by Sharia law. So they might have progressive, or try to have some progressive liberal laws in there to help this situation within Pakistan. They always get curtailed by Sharia law. Islamic legal tradition treats any sexual contact outside a legal marriage as a crime. So, the main category of such crimes is zina, defined as any act of illicit sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. According to a study carried out by Human Rights Watch, there is a rape once every 2 hours, a gang rape every hour, and 70 to 90% women are suffering with some kind of domestic violence. So, first, I related to you what the Islamic legal tradition says, which is against any kind of sexual intercourse outside the marriage. But then you can see that every 2 hours, a woman is getting raped, and a gang rape every hour. Can you imagine that? A gang rape every hour going on as well. 70 to 90% of women are suffering with some sort of domestic violence. So, somehow, even if the religion is saying, okay, let's not do that, it's still happening. And it is obviously to do with the religion as well, because religion, they use it in whatever way they want to justify their acts. But even in cases where you're saying don't do it, it's still happening. So it has to be a regional cultural problem as well. Mixed with it, a lot of low education and so on and so on. Low civic sense. So the Criminal Law Amendments or Offense of Rape Act 2016. Let's talk about that. On 7th of October 2016, Pakistan's parliament unanimously passed a new anti-rape and anti-honor killing bill. The new laws introduce harsher punishment for the perpetrators of such crimes. According to the new anti-rape bill, DNA testing was made mandatory in rape cases. Sabotaging or disrupting the work of a police officer or government official could result in imprisonment of 1 year under the new law. Government officials who are found taking advantage of their official position to commit act of rape, which is custodial rape, are liable to imprisonment for life and a fine. According to the new law, anyone who rapes a minor or a mentally or physically disabled person will be liable for the death penalty or life imprisonment. So you can see as well, with the best intentions of the people who are trying to implement Pakistan Penal Code, it's a law with the most harshest penalties, and trying to discourage people from doing these acts. Still 72% of women in custody in Pakistan are physically or sexually abused. So sort of like pissing in the wind. Anyway, so then we come up to domestic abuse. In Pakistan, approximately 20 to 30% of women face some form of domestic abuse during their lifetime. Marital rape is a common form of spousal abuse, as it is not considered to be a crime under the zina laws. Under the Sharia zina laws, it is not considered rape. Marital rape is treated the same as any other rape in Pakistani law, punishable with death by hanging or up to 25 years in prison. However, only one case of marital rape has been reported in Pakistan, despite it being a common problem, because it is not according to Sharia, it is not under the zina law. So there's two laws basically that are competing with each other: the Pakistani Penal Code, which is based on English common law, and the Sharia law, which is based on the rulings of Islam. And you also have to consider that the marital rape is not the same as it is in the West for these women in Pakistan, because a lot of women in Pakistan, the problem is that they are arranged marriage. So they don't know their husbands or anything. A lot of the time they're also married without consent, where consent is, taken from them through coercive means. Then we move on to the snapshot of child sexual abuse. In September 2014, the British Channel 4 broadcasted a documentary called Pakistan's Hidden Shame, directed by Muhammad Naqvi and produced by Jamie Doran, which highlighted the problem of sexual abuse of street children in particular, an estimated 90% of whom have been sexually abused. The practice of bachabazi, a common custom involving sexual abuse of adolescent males or boys by older men, is reported to be common in the areas of northwestern Pakistan, which also links with Afghanistan because it's a very common thing within Afghanistan as well. While Pakistan has laws for the protection of children and banning of homosexuality, these are rarely enforced, and bachabazi is justified as a cultural tradition. And this is actually something that goes against Islam itself, because in Islam is explicitly against homosexuality and also the exploitation of young boys, but still it doesn't matter because these cultural traditions are there, they are corrupt. It's the people that are the problem anyways, regardless of any other coding that could be put on them. The NGO Sahel reported 3,832 cases of child abuse in 2018. Most of these cases are reported in Punjab province, and the fewer cases were reported in Gilgit-Baltistan province. About 72% of the cases are reported in rural areas and 28% in urban areas. And the latest reports that we can get is the first 6 months of 2023, 75% cases were reported from Punjab, and Sindh had 314 cases, and Islamabad had 161 cases of child sexual abuse. During the 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War, the war between Pakistan and Bangladesh, members of the Pakistani military and Razakar paramilitary force raped between 200,000 and 400,000 Bengali women and girls in a systematic campaign of genocidal rape. Most of the rape victims of the Pakistani army and its allies were Hindu women. So this is not something a newish development or anything like that. You can see this is sort of a ongoing problem for a very long time, and the use of rape being justified by the army itself. There are court rulings as well that come every now and then justifying the rape of non-Muslims and forced conversions afterwards to Islam as a result of it, and also them being forced to marry their rapists. In June 2002, a Pakistani tribal village council sentenced a woman to be gang raped in order to restore the honor of an opposing tribe. This was the case of Mukhtaran Mai, the 28-year-old woman from a remote village in Pakistan was attacked on the orders of the village council as a punishment after her 12-year-old brother was wrongly accused of having an illicit relationship with an older woman from the dominant clan in the village. So there are these tribal rules in places that they have that, if you do a wrong to a tribe and the other tribe is found to be guilty of that crime, then they are allowed to gang rape one of your women. I mean, yeah. You will find such cases in many tribal rural so-called traditions in Punjab as well. This sort of behavior is not uncommon, and it just goes to show that there is some deep-rooted cultural traditions within those regions of the rural areas of Punjab and nearby Jammu Kashmir areas and various other regions in Pakistan that leads them to continue with such practices. And then we import these problems in the West, thinking that such people will just change their mentality if we are nice to them and show them a couple of awareness videos. Let's look at a bit because we are talking about rape and sexual abuse and so on, let's look at what Islam sort of says about these things as well. Let's give it a proper snapshot then. Now, rape or zina bil jabir is a crime under Islamic law, and the perpetrator is subject to capital punishments such as lashings and execution. The Islamic understanding of rape, though, traditionally has some marked differences. What your right hand possesses, that is slaves, did not have the right to refuse the sexual advances of their owners, and likewise for women taken and distributed as booty for victorious Muslim warriors after a short waiting period to confirm they were not pregnant. Wives, similarly, are obliged to accept the sexual advances of their husbands, except certain circumstances such as menstruation or fasting. So you can see, like, the Islamic law says no to it, and there will be lashing and execution and stuff. But then again, on the other hand, it provides the excuses that one can find to still carry out such acts in one way or another, or justify it in their own head to commit such things, mixed with their own baggage, of their own cultural regional baggages. As such, the concept of rape was not recognized because of these things in Islamic law for slaves and wives. Rape of another man's slave was treated as property damage, for which compensation to her owner were due, and the rapist would receive the had penalty for illegal intercourse. It is a historical fact that sex slavery, concubinage, occurred on a massive scale from the beginnings of Islam almost until the present day. Mainly due to pressure from colonial powers during the 19th and 20th centuries, slavery was abolished across the Muslim world, though persists illegally in a few places such as Mauritania, and is considered no longer permissible in the modern context by most Islamic scholars. In many Muslim majority countries, marital rape is also now illegal, though is not recognized as a crime in others, especially in the Arab world, which is true also of some non-Muslim countries. So as you can see, slavery was still thriving in the Muslim world till the evil colonials actually enforced for it to be ended. Things they don't tell you in school, huh? Rape is considered a serious crime in the Sharia law, since the Islamic prophet Muhammad ordered rapists to be punished by stoning, while in countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE, rape victims who press charges can risk being prosecuted for extramarital sex themselves if the rape cannot be proven. So it's sort of like, yeah, there's law for rapists, but if you can't prove it, then you might get punished yourself. So you won't report it if it happened, right? That's the problem. So before we end this section of rape and sexual offenses, I want to talk a bit about honor killing in Pakistan, because honor killings is a serious problem. Now, there were 384 honor killings reported in 2022 alone, according to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. But many cases go unreported, as families tend to protect the murderers, often male relatives. To trigger this act, only the suspicion that women committed an offense is more than enough. Mostly the women are killed by their father, brother, and even by their husbands, while in this offense, other women in the family are equal perpetrators. Generally, the offenders are praised to restore the prestige of family, and mostly they are sentenced to lessen punishment for extenuating circumstances. Poverty, tribal laws, lack of education, culture, religious mindset, jirga system, the tribal council system, divorce and marriage against the will of family, customs, settling of debts, previous enmity, and provoking by community are the main reasons behind the honor crime. On 25th of September 2017, two daughters were killed by their father with the allegations of illicit relationship with boys. Being ashamed of the illicit relationship, they were killed in the name of honor by their father. In August 2017, Karachi, Bakht Jan, age 15, and Ghani Rahman, age 17, has been killed on the verdict of Jirga by giving electric shocks on the allegation that both violated the honor code. Resident of Lahore murdered his wife as she refused to quit a job at factory where she was working as labor person. Naghma, of age 13, resident of KP, was killed on the pretext, as Jirga Council pronounced the verdict, being running away from a house with an unknown man. Another case reported on 7th of April 2018, when a young man killed her 8 months pregnant sister just because she contracted marriage against the will of her parents and with a man of her own choice. There are so many examples. I can go on and on and on and on. This was just a snapshot of 2 years, 2017 and 2018, where there were some known cases. Social activist Saima Munir said that laws are made but they are not implemented. Parliamentarians approve bills from the assembly and forget to implement them. Not a single case is registered in the police station under the domestic violence bill. It happened because the women do not know about this law and the police do not know what this law is. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, a total of more than 11,000 cases of rape and gang rape were registered. During this period, there were about 4,000 cases of murder of women and more than 1,000 cases of honor killing. According to the data released by the Human Rights Commission in Pakistan, dozens of honor killings have occurred in different cities of Pakistan from 2016 to 2022. According to HRCP, there were 520 honor killings across the country in the year 2022. Among those killed are 197 men and 323 women. In the year 2023 till June, there have been 215 honor killings, including 70 men and 145 women. So now quickly and briefly I'm going to narrate to you a few of the terrorist problems within Pakistan. According to their own newspapers, terrorist activities that have happened against non-Muslims, specifically in a 12-month period from the August of 2022 to the August of 2023. And this is just a snapshot because a lot more, decades and decades of violence have happened against non-Muslims, especially Christians and Hindus in Pakistan, but this is just to show you a snapshot. So in August of 12th, Nasir Ahmad, a 62-year-old Ahmadi man, was repeatedly stabbed and killed on the spot in Rabwa over his refusal to chant slogans in praise of a far-right Islamic party while waiting at a bus stop for his Friday ritual of paying respect at a graveyard. August 21st, 2022, Ashok Kumar, a Hindu sanitation worker, was taken into custody on charges of blasphemy in Hyderabad on August 21st for allegedly desecrating the Holy Quran. A formal complaint was registered against him under Section 295/B of the Pakistan Penal Code. Following the allegation, a mob attempted to forcibly enter Kumar's apartment complex to capture him. The police issued 200 arrest warrants and arrested 42 suspects for involvement in the attack. Hyderabad SSP Ahmad Amjad Sheikh claimed that the mob wanted to burn the flats of the Hindu families living in the complex. September 23rd, 2022, a school expelled 4 Ahmadi students based on their faith in Punjab's Attak district. One of the students had been facing persistent harassment from a classmate. The decision to expel these students was prompted by parents who contacted the school principal, Kulsum Awam. Tahir Khan, a relative of the students, presented a document from the school that explicitly stated the following: students who were studying in this institute are being withdrawn on the basis of their Qadiani religion. October 9th, 2022, in a video circulating on social media, TLP cleric Muhammad Naseem Chattha Qadri urged followers to chant loud enough to cause the miscarriage of pregnant Ahmadi women. Such a blasphemer should not be born, and those that are, we will not leave them alive. October 12th, 2022, Chanda Maharaj, a young Hindu girl, was abducted in Hyderabad. She was abducted while heading home from the factory where she was employed. She was later recovered from Gulshan-e-Hadid and insisted that she was 19 years old and had married out of her own will, which are obviously these are the cases of forced marriages. January 2022, January the 10th, an Ahmadi historical place of worship located in Moti Bazar, Wazirabad, established in 1905, was desecrated by the district police. Irfan Ilyas, a local representative of the TLP, lodged a formal complaint with the Assistant Commissioner of Wazirabad alleging that the Ahmadi community has constructed a room that closely resembled a nearby mosque with minarets. He sought action under Section 298B and 298C of the Pakistan Penal Code. February of 2023, an Ahmadi place of worship in Karachi was vandalized. This incident took place in the jurisdiction of Preedy police station when unidentified men chanting slogans against the community vandalized minarets of the worship place. A video of the incident that circulated widely on social media showed policemen deployed outside the site failing to keep the mob away. Same month, 3rd of February, in Noor Nagar village of district Umarkot in Sindh, several people entered an Ahmadi place of worship by scaling the outer wall and setting fire to the furniture after dousing it with petrol. In another attack on the same day, the minarets of another Baitul Zikr in Mirpur Khas were dismantled. And again, same month, February the 11th, a mob stormed a police station in Nankana Sahib, Punjab, where a man accused of desecrating the Holy Quran was being held. The mob vandalized the building and lynched the accused, which is a pretty common sight, or has been even when I was living over there. April the 15th, a Chinese national who was working as the head of heavy transport at a major hydropower project in Mansehra was taken into custody after being accused of insulting the Holy Prophet. According to locals, the man had complained to workers at the dam that precious time was being lost due to prayer breaks and urged them to speed up their pace. This enraged some of the workers and they fanned out to nearby villages, whipping up emotions. A large frenzied crowd then made its way toward Kamila Bazaar and blocked the Karakram highway, threatening to storm the Dasu hydropower project site if the Chinese man was not arrested. April 24th, 2023, 46-year-old Musrat Bibi, a Christian woman, and Muhammad Sarmad, a Muslim man, were accused of burning pages of the Holy Quran while cleaning the storeroom of the Government Girls Higher Secondary School in Arifwala Tehsil of Pakpatan district in Punjab. The allegations were leveled by Kashif Nadeem, a resident of the town. Both workers had been told to clean the storeroom, which was filled with paper and other scrapped items. The complainant only named the Christian woman. However, the investigation revealed Sarmat to also be involved. Both had not burned the pages intentionally as they were illiterate. The police arrested them to avoid unrest by protest. The duo was set free eventually less than a month after the arrest. May 2023, two Christian teenagers, Simon Nadeem, 12, and Adil Babar, 17, were booked under Section 295C of the Pakistan Penal Code. Both boys were arrested after a complaint was made against them by Police Constable Zahid Sohail, accusing them of disrespecting the Holy Prophet. Babar's father informed the media that both boys were in conversation on the street when Sohail picked a fight with them and alleged that they had committed blasphemy. When elders of the neighborhood asked Sohail to substantiate his accusation with evidence, he failed to satisfy them and left. June the 10th, a 15-year-old Hindu girl was abducted from her home in Benazirabad district in Sindh and reportedly forced to convert and marry a Muslim. The victim was kidnapped at gunpoint by her tutor and his aides in front of her mother. Kumari's father filed a police report alleging that 9 armed men kidnapped his daughter, a student of class 8, from his home and also took away 100,000 rupees in cash and gold jewelry. The Sindh police recovered Kumari by taking immediate action and presented her in court, where she recorded her statement and declared that she wanted to go with her family, following which custody was granted to the family. It is rare for that to happen, actually, for the girl to be returned to her family. June the 30th, 2023, Harun Shahzad, a 49-year-old Christian man, was accused of blasphemy. He shared a Facebook post of the text from the 1 Corinthians chapter 10 on June 27, 2 days before Eid al-Azha, allegedly questioning the sacrifice of animals. Muhammad Imran Ullah, the complainant, reported to be a TLP activist, filed a complaint claiming that Shahzad had committed blasphemy. A case was registered against Section 295A of the Pakistan Penal Code. Announcements were made in mosques and protests were carried out by religious party activists. However, the police was reluctant to give a comment to the media and even refrained the complainant from doing so. June the 3rd, 2023. Yes, there has been a lot of them, so just bear with me, there's few more to go. June 3rd, Punjab police registered 5 FIRs against members of the Ahmadi community for slaughtering or attempting to slaughter sacrificial animals on Eid al-Azha. Now, all the Muslims do that as well. They sacrifice, but because Ahmadis are not considered Muslims in Pakistan, they are not allowed to carry out their way of observing Islam and that Eid. In addition to these FIRs, police officials in some towns and districts of Punjab barred Ahmadis from offering sacrifice completely. So they were registered in Lahore, Faisalabad, Nankana Sahib, and Gojra, however it's called. In a viral social media video, Faisalabad police raided the house of an Ahmadi individual a day before Eid and recovered 3 goats. The action came despite a 2022 judgment of the Supreme Court ruling that obstructing non-Muslims from practicing their religion within the confines of their place of worship was against the Constitution. But as I told you before, law doesn't really matter when religious fervor takes hold of people. July the 5th, 2023, the construction of an Ahmadi place of worship was halted and the building was sealed by the Sangar police at the insistence of a mob. The construction of the house of an Ahmadi leader and the Baitul Zikr had sparked outrage among locals as the architecture of the Baitul Zikr allegedly included a minaret. A minaret obviously, shows that it is a Muslim construction, and they don't consider them as Muslims. So whenever they try to represent their faith, they are met with these hostile actions. July the 8th, 2023, Sargodha police arrested a 35-year-old Christian man after a case was filed against him under Section 295A and 298 of the Pakistan Penal Code. The charges were brought forward by Muhammad Awais, a local resident, who alleged that Zaki had shared a blasphemous post on Facebook. Again, just allegations, of these sorts. Despite receiving support from the Imam of the village mosque and other Muslims from the neighborhood, who confirmed that Zaki's post did not disrespect any religion, he was taken into custody. Zaki's brother explained that the post was written by a Muslim individual criticizing those involved in food adulteration. Their family believes that the case against Zaki stems from a long-standing land dispute with individuals who continue to harbor grudges despite attempts at reconciliation through village elders. Common thing that happens within the villages. July the 16th, a gang of robbers and thieves and stuff attacked a place of worship, reportedly with rocket launchers belonging to members of the Hindu community in Sindh's Kashmir. So they attacked a Hindu place of worship. The assailants also attacked adjoining homes belonging to the community in the jurisdiction of Gospur police station. They fired indiscriminately, prompting a police unit led by Kashmir Kandkot SSP Irfan Samo to reach the scene. The police official said that the burglars, robbers, or whatever the people fired rocket launchers at the place of worship, which was closed during the attack. So, it didn't have people inside it, but they still, destroyed the place with rocket launchers. July the 25th, an Ahmadi place of worship was vandalized in Karachi's Drig Road area. Kurangi Senior Superintendent of Police Tariq Nawaz said that around 4 people damaged the minarets. Again with the minarets. August 16th, 2023, and this is the last thing that we're going to cover. Mobs stormed and vandalized 5 different churches, many homes of Christian families, and even a cemetery in Faisalabad's Jaranwala district following blasphemy allegations. So all of these that I've just told you have happened only in 1 year, from August 2022 to August 2023. So just imagine how much more it happens, and these are the ones that have been reported. There's so many things that go unnoticed and unreported that are happening in the interior rural areas, where the police is heavily involved in actually facilitating these actions as well, as directed by tribal leaders and stuff. But this isn't a new thing. This has happened most of the time. I remember when I was living there for 10 years, we used to have a KFC over there, and it was a very big branch of KFC. I think it had like 3 stories or something, 3 levels, and a huge one, and it was franchised by some people. And every time there was a disruption in the city or like some sort of religious sort of protest, that KFC always used to get attacked. I also remember one time they found this guy who was on top of a bridge with a rocket launcher about to blow up the KFC as well. It's just mental. I don't know why they just always had a problem with KFC. They related that with Israel or Jews or whatever the hell you want to call it. Like they always do that, or like always American, that's how they just attack these things. And yeah, even one time when there was attack on a Shia mosque by the Islamist, in response to that, as a counter protest to that, they burned the KFC. I don't know what that KFC had done, but what can you do? What can you do against people? As I've explained in the overview before as well, where the literacy rates are so high, so low, and the elementary education is not even completed by people. Secondary, just forget about it. So, and this such high rates of cousin marriages, which obviously is affecting the cognitive abilities of people as well, mixed in with the social paradigms that are there, political unrest, economical decline, and then the religious factor, which is making them all dogmatic, and that creates a hotbed of terrorism in state. And the people who suffer the most are the people in Pakistan themselves. Now, politically, Pakistan has been a hotbed for all kind of turmoils. Like, if you consider some of the statistics, following the independence of Pakistan in 1947, it took 3 governor generals, 4 prime ministers, 2 constituent assemblies, 1947 to 1954 and 1955 to 1956, and 9 years of protracted constitution making process to produce the first constitution of Pakistan in 1956. It was rejected on the final day of its adoption by all Hindu majority parties and the largest Muslim political party, which was the Awami League from the then East Pakistan. Political instability led to imposition of the first martial law of October the 7th, 1958 by General Ayub Khan, who enacted the 1962 constitution to the country through an executive order. The current constitution, enacted by the 3rd Constituent Assembly in 1973, was twice suspended by military coups, with military regimes amending it in ways that fundamentally changed its Islamic and federal character. One such was the grant of power to the president to dissolve the lower house of the federal legislature. That proved to be the death, sometimes literally, of many a prime minister. So since 1947, Pakistan has had actually 29 prime ministers. On 18 occasions, they have been removed on different pretexts, including corruption charges, direct military coups, and forced resignations. There were 2 assassinations and 1 hanging. Pakistan has been under direct military rule for some 33 years of its 74 years of independence, and under a so-called hybrid thereafter. And these obviously, you combine everything together, of the lower education problems, of the health risk from cousin marriages and so on, the other health problems anyways that is going on in Pakistan, the cultural issues that they are there, the Islamic issues, the terrorism issues. You combine all of them with the political issue itself of non-stability in politics, and you have trouble basically. Now, let's look at the constitutional development of within Pakistan. Right, so this is going to be a long one, so buckle up. In 1956 constitution, they had strong Islamic overtones. It mandated the state to make policies for Muslim unity and international policy. Article 24, and for the facilitation of an Islamic way of life, which was Article 25. Though it clarified that these requirements were only principles of policy and could not be enforced through the courts. It also stipulated that only a Muslim may be appointed as president, Article 32, and barred the enactment of laws repugnant to the injunctions of Islam, Article 198. Beneath these overtones, however, the constitution largely retained the legislative and executive infrastructure and nomenclature of the Government of India Act 1935. Other notable points: 300 members of parliament with 40% seats to Punjab and 10 seats reserved for women, and Urdu and Bengali as official languages, but English to be used for first 20 years. Also to note, obviously, and these points, Bangladesh was still part of Pakistan as East Pakistan up till 1970-1971 when the war happened and they separated to becoming Bangladesh. The 1962 constitution, after the 1956 constitution, there was another constitution, 1962 constitution, largely reproduced the Islamic provisions of the 1956 constitution with two important exceptions. First, it relegated the provision barring the enactments of laws repugnant to the injunctions of Islam to a principle of policy, thereby making it unenforceable. Article 1A of Principles of Policy. And second, it introduced an advisory council of Islamic ideology with the mandate to recommend appropriate Islamic laws and policies to the government and legislature. Articles 199 up till Article 206. So there's a bit of contradiction where they don't want Islam to enter into the law, but also created a separate council, or asking to create a separate council which can inform on the main law according to Islam. This 1962 constitution never was enacted in full because there was a lot of political upheaval that happened during that time as well within Pakistan, with the whole war happening in the middle. Also several martial laws. There have been a lot of martial laws within Pakistan. We come then to the 1973 constitution, which is the current constitution on Pakistan. It was originally formulated, made some important advances towards Islamization. Now, this is the constitution that would have taken place after General Zia has taken over, put martial law in, and has taken over Pakistan. And he is the one who introduced Islamization. So it declared Islam to be the state religion for the first time. In 1973, Islam was declared as the state religion, Article 2. It reinstated the injunction barring the enactment of laws repugnant to Islam as an enforceable provision, Article 227. And most importantly, proposed a new Council of Islamic Ideology, Articles 228 to 231, which drew its members from the superior judiciary as well as Islamic scholars, thereby for the first time creating a bridge between the secular and Islamic legal values. There was a Hudud Ordinance that was introduced. Hudud Ordinance was a replacement of parts of Pakistan Penal Code. The ordinance added new criminal offences of adultery and fornication to Pakistani laws, and new punishments of whipping, amputation, and stoning to death, which are the Islamic punishments. But obviously, because Pakistan was on Pakistan Penal Code, which was based on English common law, these punishments were not there before. For theft or robbery, the Pakistan Penal Code punishments of imprisonment or fine, or both, were replaced by amputation of the right hand of the offender for theft, and amputation of the right hand and left foot for robbery. For zina, extramarital sex, the provisions relating to adultery were replaced by the ordinance with punishment of flogging 100 lashes for those unmarried offenders and stoning to death for married offenders. All these hudud punishments were the maximum punishments dependent on hud proof for Muslim men of good repute testifying as witness to the crime being met. The incarceration of thousands of rape victims on charges of zina has been the most worrying though. It has been difficult to merge Pakistan Penal Code and Sharia because of the differences in the underlying logic of the two legal systems. As I've mentioned before, one has English common law as basis and the other Islam. In 1980 till 82 and 1989, it saw ordinances introduced for blasphemy laws. And these are the first time the blasphemy laws are being introduced, because obviously the door of Sharia has been opened and this is what happens, including against Ahmadi people, that if the Ahmadi people, which is a sect within Islam, if they claim to be Muslims and were preaching their form of religion, posing as Muslims, they would be punished 3 years of imprisonment. Defiling Quran, life imprisonment. Derogatory remarks against Prophet, mandatory death. Prior to 1986, only 14 cases pertaining to blasphemy were reported in Pakistan. From 1987 to 2014, over 1,300 people have been accused of blasphemy, mostly non-Muslim religious minorities. So you can see the jump because of the Islamization of Pakistan. Sharia was declared the supreme law of Pakistan in 1991. Enforcement of Sharia Act. Section 4 stipulates that courts select an interpretation of law consistent with Islamic jurisprudence and principles. The Federal Sharia Court was formed to judge the conformity of Pakistani laws with Islam according to the Quran and Sunnah. It consists of 8 judges, including 3 ulama, who are required to be qualified in Sharia. Pakistani evidence law has been brought into conformity with Sharia. However, only 9 sections needed to be changed from the British era 1872 Evidence Act. The law of evidence also requires a court to determine competence to offer witness by reference to the Islamic injunction in the Quran and Sunnah. Qisas and Diyat laws prescribe retaliatory punishments or compensatory blood money for offences such as murder and injury. The Qisas and Diyat laws in Pakistan make offences such as murder a private offence against the victim and their family, instead of classifying them as a public offence against the state as it had been during the British rule, who had abandoned the Qisas and Diyat laws because they made enforcing law and order difficult, since the victim or the victim's family could pardon or take blood money as compensation. They got enshrined into law in 1997. Punishment for apostasy have been effectuated through Pakistan's blasphemy laws. In 2006, the government sent a bill to the Parliamentary Committee for consideration, which would impose the death penalty on apostates. Which is why at that point was the time when I started thinking that it's time to go, and 4 years later I did go. The emphasis on Islam has meant that certain laws, like the Domestic Violence Bill of 2020, could not be passed due to opposition from religious political parties and the Council for Islamic Ideology. And conversely, certain other laws, such as the blasphemy laws from Ziaul Haq's time, could not be repealed despite repeated calls from civil society. However, it did not mean that all laws enacted by the federal or provincial legislatures prioritized the views of Islamic parties or the council. Most recently, the Transgender Persons Act 2018 and the Punjab Protection of Women Against Violence Act 2016 were challenged before the FSC for being contrary to the injunctions of Islam. There is also a third category of people who have taken it upon themselves to uphold what they consider to be the sanctity of Islam. This has resulted in increasing religious vigilantism, which, despite its overt religious fervor, is often simply a ruse for settling personal scores. While blasphemy accusations usually target persons belonging to Pakistan's religious minorities or the lowest rungs of its very stratified society, it has not spared its elite. For example, the 2011 murder of Governor of Punjab Salman Taseer at the hands of his security guard was particularly shocking. Even more shocking perhaps was the reverence afforded to his murderer as he was sentenced to death by the Supreme Court. So that was a bit of a snapshot of the legal landscape of Pakistan and how it has changed, and should also show you why all Pakistanis are not the same, and we can't just consider them all the same, because a lot of Pakistanis within Pakistan are trying to fight this Islamization for a very long time, but it feels like losing battle since it has been incorporated into Pakistan more and more and more. Now, before we end this microscopic review of Pakistan, let's have a look at the migration, Pakistani migration that has happened, with a specific view to England as well, to Britain as well, because that's what our concern is over here. So if you see the migration of Pakistanis from 1842 to 1947, now these won't be Pakistanis at that time, but Muslims or so forth who are living in the region of India. After the fall of Sindh in 1842 and Punjab in 1849, a large part of the territory of today's Pakistan came under rule of the British Empire. From 1842 to 1857, a small number of immigrants from Punjab, Sindh, and Kashmir began arriving in the British Isles as employees of the British East India Trading Company, typically as Lashkars and sailors in British port cities. After the establishment of the British Empire in 1857, Baloch and Pashtuns, along with Punjabis, Sindhis, and Kashmiris, continued coming to Britain as seamen, traders, students, domestic workers, cricketers, political officials, and visitors. A small number of them settled in the region. Between 1860 and 1930, camel caravans worked in outback Australia, which included Pashtun, Punjabi, Baloch, and Sindhi men, as well as others from Kashmir. By 1900, Punjabis and Pashtuns or Pathans began migrating to other parts of the British Empire. Many were veterans of the British Army, but included a small migrant population who were legally considered British subjects. Pashtuns migrants opted for the British Trucial states, where the British used their subjects as a valuable human resource in running the administration. Others sought opportunities by moving to the United States, particularly to Yuba City in California. Poor wages and working conditions convinced Punjabi workers to pool their resources, lease land, and grow their own crops, thereby establishing themselves in the newly budding farming economy of Northern California. At the time of Malaysia's independence under the Federation of Malaya Independence Act 1957, there were more than 200,000 Pakistanis residing in Malaysia as well. So, usually when I say the problems are coming from this part of Pakistan or that part of Pakistan, it doesn't necessarily include a lot of people who migrated, who are ethnically from certain regions, but who migrated long before the formation of Pakistan and have not been influenced from 1947 onwards, or not even 1920 or 1919 onwards to current times, where the situations in Pakistan and the corruption in Pakistan have changed and molded people a bit differently, and the resentment against other parties have grown more to cloud their judgments, and the Islamization of them have become more since the 1970s, so the attitudes have changed a lot as well because of those times. So now let's look at the migration of Pakistanis from 1947 to 1970. Emigration from Pakistan was relatively small between 1947 and 1970. The rapid industrialization process of Pakistan during the 1950s and 1960s, coupled with the introduction of modern agricultural practices, pushed out surplus labor, leading to mass rural to urban migration, primarily to Karachi. Karachi was where I lived for 10 years actually. During this time period, the majority of Pakistanis who went abroad left to earn money abroad but not to settle, or were students who intended to return to Pakistan when their degree programs were completed. By 1971, no more than 900,000 Pakistanis lived abroad, with the majority residing in the United Kingdom and Saudi Arabia. In 1959, small numbers of Pakistanis were found to be working in Bahrain, Kuwait, and elsewhere in the Persian Gulf. Pakistan was already the single most important source of non-Arab expatriate labor in the Kuwaiti Oil Company, representing about 19% of the workforce, and trailed only Americans among those working for Saudi Aramco in Saudi Arabia, who represented 6% of the workforce. So during this time, we saw an excess, first mass migration into Britain from Pakistan. The first mass migration of Pakistanis began in 1965 during the construction of Mangla Dam in Azad, Jammu and Kashmir. Over 280 villages around Mirpur and Dadiyal were submerged, which led to the displacement of over 110,000 people from the region. Pakistanis also emigrated from these areas and the regions of Attock and Nowshera due to high levels of unemployment in the regions and harsh terrain that made farming difficult. During the same period, the British government were actively seeking people from abroad to work in industrial towns in northwest England who were suffering from worker shortages. The industrial towns in England that many of the Pakistani immigrants ended up relocating to for work were the towns of Rochdale, Newcastle, Bristol, High Wycombe, Birmingham, Dewsbury, Huddersfield, and Bradford. Close to 50,000 Pakistanis from Mirpur emigrated to northern England between 1965 and 1970. The Pakistanis who decided to emigrate to Britain in this time period were aided by the 1948 British Nationality Act, which allowed for people from British Commonwealth countries such as Pakistan to travel and settle in Britain as they were considered British citizens. So 1971 to as present as then we can be up till 2000, I would say. Bhutto started nationalizing industry. Bhutto was the prime minister of Pakistan at that time. He started nationalizing industries and intended to nationalize banking and trading. Rural to urban migration into Karachi slowed down during the 1970s and 80s and was substituted by a rising wave of international migrations to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, or Libya. The majority of migrants were young males who would seek work abroad while families would remain back in Pakistan. During the 1960s and 70s, the remaining Pakistani Jewish community of 2,000 Jewish people began emigrating to Israel and settled in Ramla. And you can see that why, because from 1973 onwards, the Islamization of Pakistan happened. A lot more can be said about migration of Pakistan, but obviously since that time what has happened is slowly as Britain or other countries have allowed immigration to happen, they have started shifting for studentships and so on, but also we have been importing their problems. So the conditions within Pakistan, as we saw within the constitution changes and the Islamization of Pakistan and the addition of Sharia law within Pakistani penal code, the attitudes of people have changed. The numbers of madrasas have increased exponentially. The radicalization have happened a lot, and after that time was also the time when Russia was on Afghanistan, so that war also happened. That radicalized a lot, the creation of Talibans and whatnot. After the 9/11 as well, a lot of the terrorist activists coming within Pakistan, so progressively Pakistan has gone worse culturally since 1970s, and instead of recognizing that this has happened, we have been importing people from there. So it's a different mentality of people who came a long time ago from those regions compared to the people who came as labor to fill the gaps of labor shortages in 1965 to 1970. 50,000 of them, they had completely different cultural values. They had issues of their own. They weren't easy to integrate into the British culture as well, so they are a bit different than the other Pakistanis who came. And then the Pakistanis subsequently who have come after the Islamization of Pakistan, progressively their attitudes are different. So this is why we have a very different population of Pakistanis within Britain, and what problems they have been causing over here, and the ones that are not causing problems as well. That's why there are disparity of them over here. Now, the population of Pakistan in UK, which is recorded at around 1.6 to 1.7 million people, Pakistani people live in UK. 1.57 of them are living in England. Only 17,000 or so are living in Wales. Scotland, 49 or so thousand. Northern Ireland, 1,596 as of 2021, I think so. The census in 2021. Now these are the recorded ones. There's a lot of illegal Pakistanis as well who have been living over here for a while, so they might not be recorded. Obviously they won't be recorded. As I told you, the different demographics in Pakistan of different people, the reason was because they are different ethnicities. Sometimes we say, oh, someone is a Pakistani, but we don't know what their ethnicity is. The reason why it's important, because different ethnicities have different values, different cultures, different way of interacting with others, and so on, different behaviors, different sensibilities. However, most of them have been corrupted by Islam anyways. So there's a heavy influence of Islam on all the cultures, but each region has its own sort of flavor to it, and the educated class is different from the rest of the country as well. And in today's Britain, we might think like, oh well, you're being a bit snotty, right? Like saying, oh, it's the educated class compared to the working class, but it's not the same as over here. As I told you, the educated class, I'm just talking about the people who have at least finished their schooling, right? Try not to think from your perspective that much on this episode. So the highest percentage of people that we have from Pakistan in UK are Kashmiris, are Punjabi Kashmiris. 70% of the Pakistanis who live in England are from that region. They are actually not ethnically Kashmiris. They are mainly from the Mirpur, Kotli and Bimber districts. And these are Punjabi Kashmiris. There's a large Azad Kashmiri communities can be found. They can be found over here in Birmingham, Bradford, Manchester, Leeds, Luton, and the surrounding areas. And then we come up to Punjabis. The Punjabis are 1/3, and they are from the Pothohar region of Jhelum, Gujar Khan, Attock of northern Punjab. The British Punjabis are more commonly found in the south of England, the Midlands, and the major cities in the north, with smaller minorities in former mill towns in Lancashire and Yorkshire. These are the people who are from the villages in the central Punjab, Faisalabad, Sahiwal, Gujarat, Sargodha regions. More recent immigrants have also arrived from large cities such as Lahore and Multan. The second, so that's sort of like 85 or even up to 90%, I would say now. Yeah, above 90% of the people who are from Pakistan are actually Punjabis. So there's one ethnic region of Pakistan that is heavily represented over here. Some regions even might think that Punjabi, because they speak Punjabi is the regional language of Pakistan, which is not national language, is Urdu. So the second people, 100,000 of them as recorded in 2021 census, are Pashtuns. These are from the provinces of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and northern Balochistan. These are also smaller communities from other parts of Pakistan, such as Pashtuns of Punjab, because there are Pashtuns in Punjab as well, from Attock, and 100,000 Pashtuns in Britain, making them the largest Pashtun community in actually the whole of Europe. Over the course of the past 5 decades, 50 years, there is a British Pashtun Council, which has been formed by the Pashtun community in the UK. Then you have other people with 30,000 Sindhis that live in Britain. You have the Mahajers, 400,000 Urdu-speaking people live over here, some of whom are Mahajers, because not all Urdu-speaking people were Mahajers. Then you have the people from Hazara, and this is another ethnic group that I think so I failed to mention that before. These are people who live up north. They have migrated from Quetta. And there's also a Pakistani Hazara community in the UK, concentrated particularly in Milton Keynes, northeastern London, Southampton and Birmingham. If you want to know about like the cultural differences and so on, I think so you can look it up. They all have their regional dresses, different from each other, regional way of interacting with one another as well. Different kind of personalities, like Pathans or Pashtuns are usually considered hardworking, very hardy people. They're the mountain people, sort of. Well, they have different facial characteristics and ethnic profile as well. They're more fair skinned and so on, because they're obviously living in the mountains and stuff. They have a different makeup to them, but every single region has their own characteristics, so it's good to understand that part as well. Anyways, I think so. This episode has gone on long enough. I hope that gave you a brief look about Pakistan and how complex the situation actually is and how intricate the details you are. And it gave you a snapshot of things. Maybe there are things that you picked up from what I've said that you can go ahead and search up for yourselves, because there's a lot more, a lot of things that I'm missing out, obviously, because it's going to be hours and hours and hours long episode otherwise. So please have a look for yourself at the history and the current makeup of Pakistan and the attitudes of Pakistan, the cultures, and so on and so on. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and until next time, take care, be good, and thank you so much for listening. So, before we end this section of rape and sexual offenses, I want to talk a bit about honor killing in Pakistan, because honor killings is a serious problem. Now, there were 384 honor killings reported in 2022 alone, according to the Human Rights Commission of Pakistan. But many cases go unreported, as families tend to protect the murderers, often male relatives. To trigger this act, only the suspicion that women committed an offense is more than enough. Mostly, the women are killed by their father, brother, and even by their husbands, while in this offense, other women in the family are equal perpetrators. Generally, the offenders are praised to restore the prestige of family, and mostly they are sentenced to lessen punishment for extenuating circumstances. Poverty, tribal laws, lack of education, culture, religious mindset, jirga system, the tribal council system, divorce, and marriage against the will of family, customs, settling of debts, previous enmity, and provoking by community are the main reasons behind the honor crime. On 25th of September 2017, two daughters were killed by their father with the allegations of illicit relationship with boys. Being ashamed of the illicit relationship, they were killed in the name of honor by their father. In August 2017, Karachi, Bakht Jan, age 15, and Ghani Rahman, age 17, has been killed on the verdict of Jirga by giving electric shocks on the allegation that both violated the honor code. Resident of Lahore murdered his wife as she refused to quit a job at factory where she was working as labor person. Nagma, of age 13, resident of KP, was killed on the pretext, as Jirga Council pronounced the verdict, being running away from a house with an unknown man. Another case reported on 7th of April 2018, when a young man killed her 8 months pregnant sister just because she contracted marriage against the will of her parents and with a man of her own choice. There are so many examples. I can go on and on and on and on. This was just a snapshot of 2 years, 2017 and 2018, where there were some known cases. Social activist Saima Munir said that laws are made, but they are not implemented. Parliamentarians approve bills from the assembly and forget to implement them. Not a single case is registered in the police station under the domestic violence bill. It happened because the women do not know about this law and the police do not know what this law is. In 2019, 2020, and 2021, a total of more than 11,000 cases of rape and gang rape were registered. During this period, there were about 4,000 cases of murder of women and more than 1,000 cases of honor killing. According to the data released by the Human Rights Commission in Pakistan, dozens of honor killings have occurred in different cities of Pakistan from 2016 to 2022. According to HRCP, there were 520 honor killings across the country in the year 2022. Among those killed are 197 men and 323 women. In the year 2023 till June, there have been 215 honor killings, including 70 men and 145 women.